Good afternoon, Dr. Chatelain, friends, families, esteemed colleagues, Dean Knightsky, and most importantly, good afternoon and congratulations to Arrupe College's class of 2020. What does it mean to be a prophet? What does it mean to be a prophet? Perhaps you discussed this in your theology courses or during other class discussions at Arrupe College. What does it mean to be a prophet? For me, a prophet is a woman, a man, a person who guides their community from order to disorder, and then from disorder to reorder. The prophet challenges the community to re-examine what looks normal and deserved, particularly if what is normal has excluded some members of the community from experiencing and benefiting from what others have enjoyed. This re-examination leads to disorder, a time of change and sometimes of confusion or conflict. The result of this period, reorder, which in religious language can be called enlightenment or exodus or nirvana or heaven. As we have reckoned with the unfathomable losses and anxieties of the pandemic, the frightening rise of unemployment, and the protest, anger, and despair in the wake of more racial injustice, we have been moving from the old order towards, please God, a reorder. There is, however, no easy way, no nonstop flight from order to reorder. We must experience disorder to arrive at reorder. And we must have prophets guiding us, prophets urging us, prophets leading us from order to disorder, and from disorder to reorder. We need leaders. We need, as Arrupe's mission statement says, we need persons for and with others to prevent us from defaulting back to normal. We need persons for and with others to safeguard us to a better normal. Class of 2020, we need you. We need your leadership. We need the gifts you brought to Arrupe 2 years ago. We need the contributions you made to build our community. We need what you've learned at Arrupe. We need you. We need you to be our prophets. Now, you may be listening to me thinking, thanks, Father K, but don't I already have enough going on and now I have to become a prophet? My community has already suffered more during the pandemic. My community is experiencing unemployment rates higher than others. My community and I are tired. We are tired of racialized violence. We are tired of empty rhetoric and promises. We are tired of endlessly witnessing the privilege of others. We are tired. You may not realize this, class of 2020, but for the past 2 years, you have been exercising leadership as a prophet. You've engaged in the movement from order to disorder to reorder. The order we are called to address at Arrupe College is one you know too well, a higher education system that is inaccessible and unaffordable for too many members of our communities. By enrolling at Arrupe, by studying at Arrupe, by succeeding at Arrupe, and now by graduating from Arrupe, you said prophetically that the old order does not work for you, that you were willing to work toward a new order, a reorder. Launching Arrupe, Working at Arrupe, studying at Arrupe sows disorder in higher education because we have changed the old order of Loyola University and Jesuit education because of you, because of who you are and what you have accomplished. A change that might make some uncomfortable, a change that is overdue and so worthwhile. A few years after I first met you, you are graduating from Arrupe. You're transferring to senior institutions. You're preparing for the workplace. You've landed a job or internship. You are moving into the next chapter of your lives. This is the reorder part of being a prophet. This is a reorder we can all embrace. This reorder is happening because of you, because of how you exercised your roles as prophets. And this is a skill set, a gift that you possess, that you can share with others in your communities as you move on. Before you move on, let's pause, let's reflect, and let's remember. I remember meeting so many of you for the first time a couple of years ago when you arrived at Arrupe for your interviews. My role on those interview Saturdays was to talk about Father Pedro Arrupe, the great Jesuit leader for whom our college is named. You might recall I read the following quote from Father Arrupe to you. "Nothing is more practical than finding God, than falling in love in a quite absolute, final way. What seizes your imagination will affect everything. It will decide what will get you out of bed in the morning, what you do with your evenings, how you spend your weekends, what you read, whom you know, what breaks your heart, and what amazes you with joy and gratitude. Fall in love, stay in love, and it will decide everything." Class of 2020. In Father Arrupe's words, you have affected everything at our college. While it breaks our hearts that we cannot be together today in person, you amaze us with joy and gratitude. Fall in love with the next chapter of your life as you fell in love with your experience at Arrupe. And when you get out of bed in the morning, whatever you do with your evenings and weekends, whatever you read, whomever you know, continue. Continue your journeys as prophets. Build upon your successes at Arrupe as you participate in moving from an unjust, broken order through the necessary change of disorder to reorder that benefits from who you are and what you have already accomplished. God bless you, class of 2020 of Arrupe College, just as you have been such a blessing for Arrupe. Thank you. I would now like to invite our student speakers, Egypt Watson and Valeria Placencia, to share a message with the class of 2020.
Thank you, Father K. I'm Egypt Watson.
And I'm Valeria Placencia.
And we would like to welcome you all, friends, family, and students, to the 2020 graduation of Arrupe College. It is with great honor that we stand before you today and celebrate this collective milestone.
We all remember the very first day we set foot on the megabus headed to this place called Lubeck to spend 2 nights and 3 days with complete strangers.
Then starting classes almost a week later, having a group of people to now call friends.
At Arrupe, we are constantly reminded that together we can endure any hardship.
Arrupe also created a place for us to call home, and these last 2 years have given us a supportive community of friends, faculty, and staff that we will never, ever forget.
Now our time at McGuire Hall has come to an end, but you know what they say,
once Arrupe, always Arrupe. Graduating today may be bittersweet, but in reality, it is just another step closer to all of us making our mark on the world.
Regardless of what our next steps are, whether that is transferring to a 4-year institution, gaining a new job, or traveling the world. We all have a responsibility to be agents of positive change in our communities. In our present moment, one of the most urgent demands is the need to stand against racial injustices. As graduates of Arrupe College, we have learned to really care for self, to care for others, and our community. And now we have the responsibility to use the skills and education we have gained to fight for the change our nation needs. In the words of James Baldwin, the world is before you, and you need not take it or leave it as it was when you came in. In demanding the change that we want to see in the world, it can be useful to draw from our own experiences. For example, as a Mexican woman, I have experienced racial injustices simply for my accent. These experiences have attempted to make me feel misplaced or insignificant. But one thing I know for certain, I know that I belong, that I am strong, that I am Mexican, and I am proud. Arrupe has shown me the importance of community, and particularly the impact a community has when we stand together. Today, we ask that regardless of where our journey takes you, you rise against racial injustices.
Racial inequality against African Americans is a worldwide pandemic that existed long before COVID-19. These injustices speak to the social disadvantages and disparities that impact our quality of life, and have shown us the need for anti-racism and radical change to demand that equality becomes a true component of the world's global system. As I share these experiences with you now, I hold in my heart the pain of being a young Black lady in a world where the color of my skin places a target on my back, knowing that the coronavirus is impacting the Black community with the highest mortality rates of all. I scream, Black Lives Matter, to demand equal rights in America in hopes that it would bring systemic change. I stand before you now to say that I remain unapologetically Black, and you too should be proud of who you are. As Dr. King said, judge not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Today, we are asking you, class of 2020, to be the change this world so desperately needs.
Over the last 2 years, Arrupe has shown us that we can unite diverse groups of people with various perspectives. Just over the last 2 years, we all started as complete strangers from different backgrounds. Since then, we have come together in times of hardship and adversity. We have stood alongside each other through life-changing events, many just in the last 6 months. Who would have thought toilet paper would have been so important? I point out our solidarity in these times to emphasize how possible it is to unite people of different backgrounds through anything. Wherever you go next, remember that it is possible to come together, no matter how big our differences might be.
These past 2 years have also shown us how capable we all are of accomplishing our goals. Just remember, you are a powerhouse full of creativity and ambition. Now, let's take on all of these challenges ahead with confidence. Live as Arrupe has taught us, with greater love than fear.
Congratulations, class of 2020. And good luck to all of us, our new endeavors. Go forth and set the world on fire.
Now, we would like to welcome our next keynote speaker, Marsha Shatlin, to share a message with the class of 2020.
Good afternoon, Arrupe College class of 2020. When I first received this invitation, I imagined this moment a lot differently, but I'm glad that technology affords me the privilege of addressing you today. Actually, when Father Kotsaros invited me months ago to participate in graduation, I burst into tears. I receive up to 30 invitations a year to speak at various events, but this one was the most special because as a Chicagoan and as a beneficiary of Jesuit education, I'd never felt so connected to a potential audience. So I come to you filled with gratitude to be able to congratulate you on completing one step of a journey that will take you towards goals you carefully planned out, and a journey that has offered you lessons you will draw from when the unexpected presents. After a couple of years at Arrupe College, I'm sure you have heard about Father Arrupe's life. His early years, his studies in the US and Europe, his expulsions from Spain and later Japan, and his incredible work in Jesuit higher education. As a Catholic educator working at a Catholic college, and as a faculty member living at Pedro Arrupe Residence Hall, I think about him often. As a historian, Father Arrupe's biography compels me to ponder the fact that over the course of his 83 years, he was able to observe a rapidly changing world in terms of technology and innovation, and a world that did not use its capabilities to fully end the injustice in it. For more than half of his life, African Americans were subject to separation by way of Jim Crow laws that ensured blacks could not venture into a store, ride a bus, or drink from a water fountain on an equal basis in all 50 of the United States. In Father Arrupe's time, American Indian children were kidnapped from their families and communities in the interest of making them like the white colonizers that determined their fates. Mexican laborers were central to the agricultural economy, but denied full rights as workers and were denied the rights offered European immigrants. Father Arrupe lived through the mass violence of 2 world wars, a war in Korea and in Vietnam. In his own life, he experienced the psychological torture of solitary confinement and witnessed the devastation of nuclear war, which would lead to mass casualties and environmental destruction. Although Father Arrupe died before most, if not all of you, were born, you know and can relate to some of the enduring struggles that shaped his life and spirituality. Our technology has vastly developed since his death in 1991, and the quest for racial justice, peace, embrace of the immigrant, the return of tribal sovereignty to indigenous peoples, continuing protections for the marginalized, a restoration of the environment, and an end to the brutality of incarceration remain. And where do you fit in all of this? What is your place? I ask myself these questions often. Who am I to be in this moment? Each of us will answer that question for ourselves. But along the way, we will return to our foundations to shape our responses. For me, growing up on Chicago's North Side, raised by a single mother who was also an immigrant and who was also working in low-wage jobs, taught me the values that I return to every day. Like a lot of your family and friends, my mother worked so hard to provide for her family. She woke up early to go to work, then take me to school, then work some more, pick me up from school, then go back to her other job. I learned from her that in America, the product of your hard work doesn't always show itself in your paychecks. The hardest workers are sometimes the least appreciated, and that fairness is not always in large supply. But my mother taught me something much more important than the injustices that she and so many other workers face, and that was the importance of grace. The ability to be generous in spirit, even when you could not be generous in substance. We did not have a lot, but I remember growing up in a community that always had so much to offer. As someone who studies the wealth that is generated by business people, I'm often asked about charity and donations, and if I believe that this is an important step in securing equality. In the recent dialogue after the protests that emerged after George Floyd was killed, people turned to the idea of the need for more black wealth or black businesses to help respond to the damages of racism on black communities. Although I think it's important for people to pursue their passions, I want us to think about wealth differently. Many of you pursued Arrupe College and will continue with your education because you know the importance that a degree can have on your potential earnings. I acknowledge and appreciate your choice, but I want you to think about the wealth, the riches generated by grace, by the ability to care for the overwhelmed, the undernourished, the overpoliced, and the entirely ignored. We can use our educations to create financial stability and more choices for ourselves and our families. This I know coming from a working class family to becoming a writer and a college professor. But my success will be forever measured in the patience and generosity I have with my students, with myself, and with every stranger I encounter at the supermarket and on the subways. Yours has been a grace-infused education, and I hope it was a grace-filled experience. I know it wasn't always easy, but I hope that it has been worth it. Your families and communities may ask so much of you, and sometimes it's hard to see much grace in the world around us. But please take heart that life dictated by this beautiful and amazing gift we are given, not because we are the smartest or the funniest or the best looking, but it is given because we simply are. Our times have revealed so much to us. The inequality that many of us have known through personal experience has been exposed in a great light with this pandemic. We know that there is suffering, inequality in wages, access to healthcare, and viable options for the future. We have seen what happens when our nation's leaders appeal to the lowest common denominators of xenophobia, racism, and hatred. There are those who call us outsiders because of our skin, the language we speak, or the routes we have traveled to get here. We know this. Yet those who call us outsiders know nothing of what we have inside our families, our friends, our churches, our communities. They do not know what we are made of, and we have to remember and we know for each other. Throughout his life, Father Arrupe returned to the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius to center himself, to remember the commitments he had made and find the courage he needed in times of despair. In my daily struggles, I also return to inspired words, and in light of recent events, the weight of a world made weary by loss, by inequality, and by injustice, I often listen to the words of Martin Luther King Jr., a person a lot like Father Arrupe, whose life was infused with a grace that protected his spirit from the cruelest circumstances. I love King's final oration in Memphis, Tennessee, a speech that traces the course of human history from the days of the oppression in Egypt to the Emancipation Proclamation to his present moment when Black sanitation workers were fighting for better pay and a safer workplace. King's speech talked about his gratitude for his life being saved after a violent attack in New York years earlier. But he concluded his speech with something so powerful and prophetic and grace-filled that each time I hear it spoken, I discover something else, a deeper call to service. King told the crowd at Mason Temple, "I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop, and I don't mind. Like anybody, I would love to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will, and He's allowed me to go up to the mountaintop, and I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people, we will get to the promised land. And I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord." The next day, King was assassinated. The future is so uncertain, and there are moments that will be crushing and moments that will bring consolation and moments that will be confusing for you. But if the great leaders of our times past and our time, Ida B. Wells Barnett, Coretta Scott King, Sister Simone Campbell, and Father Pedro Arrupe have taught us anything, it is that we do not know what will happen, but we know we have each other. We have incredible people with us on our journeys, and that is worth so much. Congratulations, Arrupe College Class of 2020. I would now like to invite Dean Katsaros to give some final remarks.
We would now like to recognize the 2020 graduates from Arrupe College.
Thank you, Father Katsuros. My name is Isabel Reyes, and I am the Associate Director of Admission at Arrupe College. I am honored to recognize members of the class of 2020. I would now like to present the candidates for the degree of Associate of Arts in Business Administration. Maria Fernanda Anguiano. Hirsch R. Bat. Brianna Helena Jamise Butler. Stephen Omar Calderon. Angelique Grace Harlan, magna cum laude. Veronica Marie Huicochea. Jose Julian Hasso Sanchez, magna cum laude. Yatzil Popes. Yael Gerardo Lara, cum laude. Isamar Martinez. Michael Samson Oludoyi. Luis Francisco Pacheco, cum laude. Ashia Patel. Moises Alejandro Pavon, summa cum laude. Alejandro Ramirez, cum laude. Marina Rivera Valencia. Angelo Raul Villazana, cum laude.
I would now like to present the candidates for the degree of Associate of Arts, Liberal Arts.
Diavion Armstrong. Fabian Arroyo. Julian C. Avila. Ruben Alexis Bautista. Catherine Corral. Miguel Arturo Cruz. Christian Daniel Diaz. Jorge Orlando Escobar, magna cum laude. Vivian Lynette Fajardo. Grecia Jimena Garcia. Vanessa R. Giraldo. Jacqueline Gomez. Shayna Guerra, cum laude. Christopher G. Harris. Nicole Brianna Henry. Kendrick D. Jones. Priscilla Abena Quaten, cum laude. Alejandro Lopez. Carlos Macias. Karina Magaña, summa cum laude. Brian Adair Moreno. Sarai Muñiz. Taylor B. Perez. Valeria Denise Plasencia, summa cum laude. Mariama Reyes. Adam Jacob Rivera. Isaac Romo. Laura Gail Schwartz, magna cum laude. Chelsea Jocelyn Soto. Batul Taha, magna cum laude. Jamie Jerem Torres Medina. Egypt Isis Watson, cum laude.
I would now like to present the candidates for the degree of Associate of Arts, Social and Behavioral Sciences.
Carrie Ann Adcock, magna cum laude. Ilyas Ali Ahmed. Jocelyn Angulo. Evelyn M. Ocapina Padilla. Ilse Fernanda Baileres. Jennifer Bazan Garcia. Fatima Bati. Alexis Marie Clark. Evelyn Montserrat Corona, cum laude. Carla Leslie Cruz, magna cum laude. Leticia Barreto da Silva. Frida de Santiago Moreno. Cassandra del Valle, magna cum laude. Jonathan Estrada. Erica Lynn Fanucci. Alejandra Fernandez, cum laude. Devin Cisneros Garcia. William Garcia. Elena Garcia Ábalos. Itzel Guadalupe Garduño. Leslie Gómez Victoriano. Lisa Marie Guillen. Jordan Izat Hani, cum laude. Diana V. Hernandez, cum laude. Rodrigo Hernández. Victoria Hernández Zárate. Hassan Howard. Irene Ibarra. Leslie Kimberly Jaramillo. Dulce Lisbeth López, cum laude. Rosaura Martínez Leal, cum laude. Daimareli Mendoza, summa cum laude. Stephanie Montoya, cum laude. Jaslyn Annalise Morales. Reina Moreno, summa cum laude. Denise Navarrete. Eloísa Ocampo de la Rosa. Evelyn Padilla. Natalia Paredes Tamayo, summa cum laude. Ket N. Pri, magna cum laude. Raimundo Alejandro Quiroga, summa cum laude. Carlos Yamil Rivera. Ishali Aaron Schroeder. Lucero B. Solano. Martín Solano. Emma Haley Soto. Mariam Sayeda, cum laude. Karina Tapia. Lilian Treviño Garcia, cum laude. Kimberly Velasquez Chavez. Lisbeth Velasquez. Xochitl Vera. Niana Madeline Warlick. Greg Fontarius Williams. Carlos Daniel Zuleta Martinez. My sincere congratulations to the class of 2020.